Okay, we're on. Okay, good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for everybody coming. My name is Dr. Gretchen Reyes, and
I am Dr. Anwar.
And today we're going to discuss the process or how to prepare yourself for launching an 8-week course or taking one of maybe your 16-week courses, making it an 8-week course, or a 5-week or 7-week course and making it an 8-week course, depending on what you are actually teaching. Throughout the presentation, Anwar and I are going to share our experiences with both the course conversion process and the challenges and successes of teaching in this 8-week format.
I'll just add to that really the purpose of this is that we want to keep the rigor and the intensity of the course, even when we go to 8 weeks. So as one of the terms, a couple of weeks ago, Corinne Anik was here from Waukesha County Technical College, and I really like the terminology that she used, that let's not call it even the compressed or the trend or anything. It is just converted in a different format to fit. But nonetheless, you do have to make modifications.
Exactly. So if you're one of the people out there that's thinking to themselves, what are you talking about? My course works just fine. Why are we moving to 8-week courses and so forth? Many institutions that I'm sure you have heard are converting to this 8-week course to provide greater flexibility for their students, and most importantly, to complete what is the word I'm looking for? Improve our completion and retention rates. So during the COVID-19 pandemic, we quickly adapted to a more synchronous online instruction type campus with very little notice. So COVID came, everybody got the call, we need to now all go online, right? It's very much similar to that, is that it was easy to do, everybody got on board, and we moved to that format. It worked very well during COVID. Due to the fact of the research that has been done and helping with our students and moving to this 8-week format, we assume that it's going to be the same. If we approach this transition with an open mind, it could provide be beneficial for everyone. And then you had just talked about Karen. Yeah.
Goodness.
Mm-hmm. And that being said, compressing or making a 16-week course into an 8-week course comes with challenges, and we agree, and we've both seen them. But before we dive in, we want to know how many of you in this room have taught an 8-week course before, or maybe in your mind a summer session. So raise your hand. So we all have done it, right? So what do you feel were your biggest challenges when you were teaching that 8-week course? Does anybody have any challenges they might have had? Yeah.
Writing assignments.
Writing assignments, okay.
8 weeks. So normally I'll give a student a writing assignment. They have a week to do it. So you're going to have to limit the number of assignments or limit the amount of time they have to do it, because you're going to have 8 weeks to do it instead of 15 plus a final week.
And I love that, because we're going to get to how do you do that? How do you make those writing assignments? How do you take that into your course and so forth? So I love that. Any other challenges? Yeah.
Well, as is field of science, you have certain amount of content to cover, and they have a hard time actually learning the content rather than learning to test versus learning to actually retain what they have learned.
Fantastic.
If I may add something to that, so just taking a few takeaways from that presentation, there were a couple of things. So first of all, what she talked about, also she did the poll as well.
Yeah.
What were your biggest concerns? And I think the top one was the student retention. Are they going to retain this information or not? Communication and all sorts of things. But what she talked about, I believe, was that there was no difference in terms of what they learned, what the students learned in either 16 weeks or 8 weeks. So I'm just taking the information what she described.
Absolutely. So in our presentation today, we're going to explore these types of issues and discuss certain strategies that we've learned along the way of preparing for an 8-week class. So some of the other key challenges that have been, either discussed with us or that we've seen have been the following. Number one, it's crucial to maintain content, the depth, despite the shorter time frame. So when we talk about this, Anwar does more of a hybrid course where he does online as well as lab. I, on the other hand, have done 8-week online courses. As I think about an 8-week online course, you could really take a lot of these challenges that we've seen and sort of put them into a face-to-face course as well. There's not, that much difference in that. So when we're reducing that course length, what we want everybody to know that it doesn't mean that you are sacrificing that academic rigor. That's really important. Instead, we need to be intentional, and that's the key word I like to use is intentional. I'm intentional on what I want my students to learn in that specific course. And how we're structuring that is really another part of it to reduce the challenges. Being intentional in what I want to teach, but also on how am I going to actually structure that in the course, so that the students are gaining this deeper understanding of those key concepts, okay? Especially without feeling overwhelmed, because that's another thing we want. We don't want our students to feel so overwhelmed that they decide that they can't take this course. It's that it's too fast or it's too accelerated. The next is keeping students engaged requires, again, that intentional course design. I don't know, Paul, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, we sat in this room, there were 6 of us, and we literally went through the Blackboard. It was moving to Ultra, and we created the current navigation system that is in your Blackboard. You can ask for it when you get a shell. Now Humberto sends out a blank shell to you every semester. You can ask him to put that in navigation into that shell and then sort of just feed into that navigation instead. I will tell you that I've used the navigation this semester in all of my classes face-to-face as well as online, and it's very systematic. I mean, students go from here to here to here, and they can follow it in a very easy, thought-out, intentional way. Again, when it comes to 8-week courses, we have to also think of the planning part of it and taking a step back and considering what do I want my course to look like in the end. Third is increased weekly contact hours can overwhelm students. I know that a lot of faculty that I have talked to have said, how are we going to do this? And so when you look at an online course, it's 8 weeks. You just throw out an 8-week course. When you're talking a face-to-face course, and we're going to get to it in the next slide, it can be broken up in different ways. And like what Anwar does is he does face-to-face, online, things like that. So there are many ways that we can create these these 8-week courses without stressing out you, faculty, or the student. And then we must ensure students don't experience cognitive overload due to the faster pace. All right, so the papers, right? How do I do that? How do I get all of my information out? So the key to designing these types of courses is to promote this active learning while avoiding the excessive demands. And that's when I keep saying this word intentional. How do I intentionally do this? How do I give a paper that in a 16-week course, it's going to cover these specific topics. Well, in an 8-week course, maybe you want to cover these specific topics as well as these specific topics that mirror together, or, that can be brought together. And really maybe in creating different assignments that are going to take in more aspects that you might have done in a regular 16-week course.
I'll take one example.
Keep going.
Again, I reviewed the notes that I took the other day, and one of the things she mentioned was that in some courses, students were required to read 20 books. She was talking about some course, but then as they transitioned into 8, they reduced the number of books to 10, but they did not sacrifice the 20. What they did, they had groups of people who would read and then they would discuss. So the load is not humongous. It's somewhat reduced.
100%, yeah. Like looking in, and using those terms that we hear, like scaffolding our assignments, things like that. Doing more formative assessments versus summative assessments, right? Giving them more assignments that are they're learning and you're reinforcing, and then maybe a summative assignment is taking in maybe some more chapters or some more topics or whatever the case is. Again, the whole concept is for students not to feel overwhelmed. And I'll just give you an example of an assignment that my students just did. Online class, they just did a group project and they had to do a business strategy for a company, and they had to make up their own product, okay? And they had last week, they got on together and they created these group video projects. Then on Sunday, when everything is due, they sent it to me. On Monday morning, I jumped on, I pulled every single person's video. I then stuck it in a discussion board. And so then this week, they're all now looking at their peers' videos, the peer group videos, and they're coming back and they're having a discussion on them and discussing what they liked, what they thought should have happened, what they learned from it, and so forth. And so for in this course, because it's management, it's a lot about how do you lead a group, working as a team, communication. It was a lot of things that I want to bring into that class that I totally can do in 16 weeks. But how do I take those aspects, those soft skills we talk about, and also bring them into my online class and hit them right there in just one assignment? And really the assignment took like 2 weeks for them, but for them, they're not looking at it as one assignment. They're looking at it as 2 assignments, but they're hitting so many little points or topics that I need to hit in this specific course.
So I think the point here is that instruction takes place in many different forms, not only the lecture or the textbook, but all the activities that we do, no matter how minor or tiny they seem.
So this is an example we had talked about, how do you do a 16-week into an 18-week. Here's the thing, we all have to maintain that 45 hours contact hours, okay? So we gave some examples right here on how to do it over an 8-week period of time in a face-to-face course, all right? So like me, I've taught summer, and the students that come in the summer, they're usually reverse transfers. And that's the one thing I want to talk about is that, I've sat out there, I've heard from people, we'll just take our summer courses and we'll just throw them in and those will be the courses and they'll be fine. Except for the thing is that when we're talking fall and spring and being intentional in those courses, we have different students. We now have Triton students, right? We don't have that reverse transfer student that's coming in to get those credits to bring into school. So we need to look at that is how does that work? How are we looking at that? So taking that, whenever the process was looking at this and saying, okay, if I'm going to do a face-to-face course, right, in the fall or in the spring, so currently, so you can do, instead of having 2.8 hours per week, all right, in an 8-week course, it's actually 5.6 hours. Okay, that's what we have to do to get our 45 hours in that 8 weeks, all right? It's 5.6 hours per week. So how do we do it? We can schedule a class twice a week, right, for 2.5 hours, or we can do it once, 4 times a week at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Monday, I think of math courses, for example. Math courses, my daughter goes to a university. When she took her math course, it was Monday through Friday, and they met for 50 minutes all week long. That was what was expected of them. When I was a student at Triton College, I came to Triton College Monday through Friday, and I took my math class. It used to be like that, where you took, you came, it was really actually 3 days a week you would come. So for this, you're talking coming in 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, for 1 hour and 15 minutes to get that math class, to get those 45 hours. If we do hybrid, which he's going to go and talk more about in a second, you can schedule 2 1 hour and 15 minute classes like we do now, Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday, whatever the case is. And then you could have 2.5 hours of online course. The important thing to remember when you are developing these courses, though, is that 2.5 hours is not homework. all right? That 2.5 hours is actual instruction. Now, they can do assignments in that 2.5 hours, but it has to be around instruction and so forth, reinforcing maybe what you taught in the classroom along with other instruction.
So if you don't remember, one LHE equals to 15 hours, and that what Gretchen was talking about would be a 3-hour course, 45 hours total. In science department, we got classes with a lot of LHEs. So I teach several classes that are 6 LHEs. That is 90 contact hours. That's a lot. How do we sort of convert that in an 8-week? So I just put a note here that students should not enroll in more than 2 such intense courses. That would be overload. Many of these courses are lab-based courses. So what do we do with labs? Well, I'll show you a couple of things later, but when we think about, so I basically took Gretchen's and I doubled all the numbers because we have gone to twice as many contact hours there. So if you're meeting instead of 5.6 hours per week, so that's what I do. I'm teaching actually 3 biology courses. They're all 6 LHEs, so we meet twice a week for 2 hours, 45 minutes, almost close to 3 hours. So if you go in 8-week format, then that number doubles. So for example, during summer, I do the same class, so we meet 4 days for 3 hours almost each, and it comes out of that number. So that's where, if you're looking at sessions per week, one could do, for example, twice 5.6 hour. I would have a feeling that that would be a lot. But if you do 4 times, this would come out to same as summer session, 2.8 hours. But hybrid, I would say that would be my favorite or desirable, that you deliver the lecture content in an online format. Listen to it, read your book, do the assignments and whatnot. And I also, I'm going to show you how to conduct the labs, for example. But the students have to come in really prepared. We got no time to waste when you come in the lab. So right now, we have a whole lab session. I can go over all the instructions, and they can do the lab because they're here once a week for that, right? And 16 weeks. But in the 8-week format, I would say that I would deliver all the information, what they need to do, how they need to prepare for a particular lab. And once they come in, they're ready to go. What that means, the actual doing time is not 2 hours, 45 minutes. So if I can reduce even that, then perhaps in a 3-hour period, 3 labs can be accomplished. And that way, I'm going to show you some the classes that we have right now, how that gets conducted. But this would be something nice, that you have 2.5-hour labs twice a week, or we can sort of, if it's possible, which it is, that we can just have the students come in, for example, 4 times over 8-week period. So they're coming every other week, and they're getting 3 labs done, and all the lecture material is online. So that's another way of doing things.
All right, so how do we adjust an 8-week course? So here are some ways that Anwar and I have come up with how we thought you could do it. So reallocating learning activities, that using more active learning in the classroom instead of these long lectures that we like to give. Things like having students work on case studies related to the concepts that you want to cover that week. Replacing those lectures with peer teaching, where students can now explain the key concepts. That's sort of what I'm doing in this discussion right now, is they are discussing the key concepts that they learn to reinforce from one another about the topic. And the great thing is they're just reading stuff and they're talking and having these conversations. Or using that flipped classroom technique. where students will watch a short video or at home, they'll do their reading, just like what Anwar was saying. They'll be super prepared when they come into the classroom so that they can start doing their activities there. Do you want to take the next one?
Are we still talking about the reallocating or?
Whatever way you want to go, sir.
Well, so I was thinking more about streamlining content. What do we do in terms of when we are talking about restructuring the material and not just taking the whole thing and just packaging it the same way? Well, this is one of the key things. I really like this streamlining content. Remove redundancies. If something is repetitive, we don't need to repeat this 5 times. It's something that you think that students have sufficient competency, let's move on from that. Also, I'm going to show you an example. Maybe we can go forward and then maybe we can come back. Gretchen, if we can go forward. I just want to show this to you. Take a look at this one. So this is an example of, as I'm preparing this particular course. So my previous lecture slides, I'm following more of what the textbook says, what the chapter is, and that comes out to close to 50 slides. So I just put all of them, and just looking at that number, 50 slides probably put people to sleep, right? Same content, now I have it in a much more organized fashion. Half the number of those slides I get done in 25 to 26. I'm not giving up any material, any depth. It's just that I have streamlined things in a much more condensed and what I like to think effective way. So that was one of the things I really wanted to talk about. I think we will talk about that a little bit more. We need to really look at what our course outline is. What are the objectives of that particular lesson? Anything and everything that is presented in the textbook, perhaps not everything needs to be covered in that depth. Some things we can go quickly. Students probably can get hold of that rather easily. We need to spend more time on things that we're all experienced. We know where students struggle. That's where we allocate more time.
And then the last one that is a way you can adjust your course is modifying assessments and assignments. So one of the things that I did is instead of, so I have 8 modules, this goes for face-to-face as well as online. I have 8 modules. At the end of each module, there will be a module like assessment. It's like 10 questions. And what it is I'm really honing in on those topical objectives that I want them to learn from that specific module of that week. Okay, so it's 10 quick questions. I can see where the students are. The students can see where they are. It's sort of a formative assessment, but it kind of tells me. Then when I get through, like, I think it's like module 3, module 7, and then the last module, I actually created either papers or projects for the students to do that are now going to take not just their topical objectives that we've covered, it's also going to bring in the learning objectives of that course of where I should be at, and it creates it to one sort of paper or project that the student is doing versus one test where they're sitting and they're cramming. They've already been tested. They already should know what they know and what they don't know. But these projects or these papers that they're providing to us instructors is actually demonstrating their understanding, right? Because remember, exams are things that we just regurgitate. There are kids that are really great at memorizing, and they do really well on tests, and they can regurgitate out your answer. But when you can take a project or a paper or something like that where it's more tangible, you can load in more of those objectives that you are looking for in that sort of project. So that's like one intentional way of looking at things. And so another is replacing lengthy papers with shorter, more frequent ones. So if you are an English class, for example, I know they have to have 5 papers. Okay, well, is there an intentional way of making the papers not as long, right? Can you make them shorter? Can you do, instead of 5 papers, can you do 10, 2.5-page papers versus 5 5-page papers, right? shortening the workload, however, in the same sense, getting across the content that you as an instructor wants to make sure that your students are understanding and can put forth. And finally, implementing peer evaluations or self-assessments. I think these are really crucial. And like I began stating about how I have these little modules, exams at the end of each, that to me is a self-assessment. The peer reviewing, going back and talking to each other about what they've learned or what they see. Again, this is also reinforcing to the students what they know and what they don't know, because that's really what the objective is.
I just wanted to add something to assignments and assessments. We'll talk about that a little bit more, but the key word, what Gretchen said, was intentional, that we have to be intentional about everything in a shorter course format. And what I'm thinking is that, I was talking to Paul earlier, and we were talking that we do a little bit more than teaching at this school in terms of we need to build their confidence as well. So initially, perhaps adjust the level of these assignments and assessments so they can see that they can do this, right? And not get turned off in the beginning. So that confidence will serve them really well in the later weeks.
Well, and yeah, and two, Anwar's part two, I think, I'm real big about classroom and being inclusive in the classroom and understanding my students' strengths and weaknesses. And so I'll just give an example for today. We're doing a project. I have a student that is English is her second language. She does not want to get a butt. She does not want to give this presentation. She is freaking out. And so I basically said to her, I said, I've got a great idea. I said, why don't you take your presentation and let's do a voiceover. I said, and voice over that presentation, and then we'll just show it in class. You don't have to get up in front of anybody and speak because that would embarrass her, right? And so I think about that too, of how do I retain students, right? How do I make them feel comfortable in my classroom to be able to still demonstrate what they're learning, right, in a way that's good for them. And so again, when looking at this 8-week course, we also as instructors have to be flexible enough too to be able to give assignments that students can accomplish and show their understanding.
So, I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
On your point number 3, do you think in an 8-week course, homework assignments that were a continuation of the previous homework assignment would work?
Yeah.
So
Would you
I'm doing one right now.
Would you repeat the question?
He wants to know,
homework
do you think
assignments that are a
continuation
of the previous assignment? So same subject matter, but going off a little bit into a new subject matter, but it's sort of a continuation of the first homework assignment.
Like if you have them separate milestone 1, milestone 2.
Yeah,
it's all
100%.
Okay.
Sure, because like let's say I was teaching English, right? Maybe I give the assignment in week 1 of this paper, right? And then in week 2, I want your first draft, right? And then now you have your draft, plus we've added this onto it. So now on week 3, I want this draft with what we added in week 2 on the 3. Yeah, 100%, I think you can. I think the thing is about assignments too is that, Greg, you can create whatever you want them to look like as long as they're hitting those objectives, right? I mean, that's, I think, the key concept. I think when I first started working on this project of 8-week courses, that seat time just kept going in my mind, right? And then after really creating and thinking about these courses, I stepped away from that a little bit. And I said, what is it, where are my students, when they come out of this class, are they going to know what I want them to know, and in that. So I think that is one of those things as well. Yes.
Yeah, just to kind of, and I'll rally and we'll go along with this. And the more you talk, the more I'm kind of envisioning my course. But I do have, I guess, and I can see making it work. But we talked to our advisory board, who's comprised of professionals from the area, and we ask them what they need from our students, and they tell us over and over again, build their confidence, but also make sure they write and write and write, because it's what criminal justice professionals do. And also make them present, because those communication skills are so important. So, and so we have them do short writing assignments and presentations, and we see their confidence build over time. And so I just feel a little concerned about, in a 8-week course, trying to trying to see that growth and making sure that they are able to meet the content I can handle, but it's those other types of things that I'm concerned about.
Business,
Okay.
writing,
Yeah.
presentations. 100%. I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
Like, how do I make sure, when you stand up there and say writing normally for business people is the first, first impression, right?
Sure.
And how do I make
Right.
sure you're a good writer when you walk out of my class? I get it. And I think that instead of doing, worksheets, little things like that, do more of the writing. Yes, is it more grading for us? Possibly, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about how we can, get that faster, completed faster for us as instructors. But again, those key, like I was saying, soft skills earlier. What are those soft skills? How do I build those in? And I do believe as you're sitting there, and that's actually our next slide. There we go. How we are going to intentionally design that from a 16-week down to an 8-week and get those things in. So there's a couple ways that we can do it. We can do it through backward design, cohesive blended learning models, and scaffold learning. So when we are doing this, we just in our mind want to create this strong course structure. So when we talk about the backward design, this is done by starting with learning objectives and then working backwards. So this is how I create my classes. I began designing a 16-week course into an 8-week course, and I first looked at my course learning objectives and then my chapter learning objectives. And I focused on what chapter learning objectives actually accomplished the course learning objectives. The ones that did not, I either removed from the course or I briefly touch on them, right? The assignment might touch or it doesn't touch on it at all. So, and then, whereas in the 16-week course, I would have touched on everything, right? It was there, I touched on it or whatever. But if I was like, oh, that doesn't really matter as much, I move on. I was then lecturing both about topics as much as, I was lecturing about those topics as much as on the topics that actually met the course objectives. Once I knew exactly what chapter objectives I was going to focus on, I then created my assessments. And based on those assessments, I was able to then tailor my lectures, my projects, and the homework assignments to reinforce those specific objectives. All right. And then when I take my course, and again, back to the way the Blackboard navigation is, if you haven't seen it, it's built out really well. I organize my content into weekly themes, or what we do in our department, it's by module. And then I implemented what we call that blended learning module. So you do this by combining pre-class readings and videos with in-class activities, and then post reflections, okay? It's those 3 steps that you're going to have. Pre, current, post, like those things to make sure that your students are reinforcing. And that can be done by breaking down those complex tasks and concepts into smaller, more manageable components. You can do it by gradually increasing the difficulty of the assignment. So again, starting easy and just building that up. Because if you look at my courses, it's super easy. It gets really hard in the middle, and then it kind of tailors off and, in the end, and it's not as hard at the end because I'm like, here's the meat's in the middle, right? And so you would do it that way. And then also the biggest thing that I can say for us as instructors is that feedback. That it would be what I would say is the biggest, or one of the biggest changes that I've seen teaching 8-week courses is that feedback. Literally sitting there, and I sit there and I either video my feedback to my students or I type my feedback to my students, but I do it every Monday. Every Monday, I sit on Mondays for hours and I get all my feedback done for all of my classes, and they all know because I'm very direct and very transparent with all my students. This is when you are going to get it, and they expect it on Mondays. And so then those 8-week courses, they know what they need to work on moving forward in that course, for the next week. Okay, that's where I'm at.
Scaffolded learning.
Yeah.
That's another technique where you start off rather easy, and then you build their confidence, add more and more complexity, and not take away, but slowly sort of slow down in how much you're guiding them. So that's something called scaffolded learning.
Yeah. Exactly. So again, adding some active learning strategies for your face-to-face sessions. This is one way, again, to convert that 16 to an 8. So when changing to a face-to-face 8-week course, doing some of these can also help. One of the biggest advantages of that face-to-face instruction is the ability to engage students through these active learning strategies rather than relying solely on lectures, right? Because we get in the classroom, we lecture, and so forth. So really having those interactions that students can have. So we talked previously about the flipped classroom. So I will skip over that one. The next thing that you can do is what we call a think, pair, and share. And this, again, encourages peer discussions. It's very simple, but it's really powerful.
My favorite, by the way.
Is it your favorite?
Yes.
You want to talk
so
about
I
it?
do a lot of this. So in my biology classes, for example, face-to-face, first of all, students will work on, I did that today. They would work on their own, and then they will connect with someone. And sometimes I have them grade each other and find if something looks faulty, or praise them that this is an incredible job. And then perhaps, not always, but most of the time, say, let's share with everyone. So that sort of communication and all that is a really good tool. So one more thing that I want to say before we move on is that when we see all these buzzwords, it feels like, oh, do we have to use all of these?
No.
I don't think so. If we can try just one thing, and I use not everything, some, but I would do this in one class something, another class, on one period I would try something, another period, mix things up, see what works for you, what your students are comfortable with. So this does not mean that you have to do all of it.
And I 100% agree with you, because I think about that right now in these 2 8-week courses that I'm doing right now. Is I've got Socratic seminars. That's not my subject, and I hated it when I was in school, and therefore I will not do it to my students either. So, but some people might, and they might love it. I don't, so I don't do that. But a lot of these other ones I do, and it's because I want to hear back from my students right now, right? I'm in a pilot, and I'm understanding what was liked, what was not liked. I will tell you, back to that group project that they're doing right now online, and now they're having their think, pair, share in their discussion. When I was on yesterday grading their actual presentations, everybody, I have them also do an evaluation about the project, and they, like, half of the class hated it. I hate a group project, especially if it's online and blah, 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 and all of this stuff. And I responded back to those people specifically, and I said, this was a simulation. You don't know it was a simulation, but let me tell you why it was a simulation. You are taking a management class. You are post-COVID. Not all companies have gone back to work. You will have to do group projects just like this in your workplace. And sometimes your kids or your other things or school or whatever might get in the way, and you're going to have to figure out how you're going to get this project done for work with this group of people. And so I explained to them why, even though in their mind, they're like, group project, this blows. And I was like, no, it's actually a real life simulation for you. That is what I'm doing. I said, and now this discussion that you're doing this week, that also is a simulation, because now you're going to be getting together like you would with your team or with your boss, and you're going to be giving feedback like you would as a manager. So being able to look at those assignments and see how they play into whatever subject you're using in that real world, and being able to explain it to the students. So what did I do? I made a note, and in that note I wrote, next time I'm running this class, make sure in the directions I've explained it to the students as a simulation, because I think once they know what you're doing, right? And I said earlier, transparency, but I think once students know why you're doing it and what you're doing it, they're way more willing to be, active in whatever you are doing. So these are, team-based.
Just say something about the team-based one. So I teach a biochemistry course, and it has a lot of case studies, things like that. people work in groups. So I just wanted to go back about the question about milestones. First time I made a mistake, so you're adults, figure this out, you got 2 weeks, groups of 3s or 4s, give me a report 2 weeks later. 2 weeks later, what I heard, I can't connect with my partners. I say, oh no, it was the biggest mistake I made. So now what I do, first week, you connect with your partner and report. If that does not happen, we do something about it. And then you have 1 week to work on it with your partners. Yeah. So some techniques too. So
100%. And I think, Anwar, when you said at the very beginning, you try it, it works, it doesn't work, it's okay. You can change it up later, right? It's nothing is set in stone, and it's all sort of a learning experience of what works with your subject, what works best in your course. And then finally, go ahead.
I just want to say about polling and quizzing and all that. Lots of apps out there, poll everywhere, I suppose. That's one useful one. But so in the D building, we got these new displays, and I don't know if you guys have those in your buildings. Those are LCD type displays. They don't have anything like this, but there's so much technology built in. The students can log in directly from there.
Yeah.
They don't even need to get up. They can have a presentation from where they're sitting, contribute, polling, everything. So maybe if those technologies are coming your way, it'll make life easier.
Absolutely. Oh, it's this thing. Sorry. Going down there. Okay, so if we were going to considering how to structure your weekly class time, depending what you and your department decides to do, if I was to do it in the business department face-to-face course, when I was thinking about this and when we were putting this presentation together, I was like, okay, if I was to do a face-to-face course in 8 weeks, I probably would do like start off the class with like sort of a mini lecture of what we were covering that week, and then do interactive exercises the rest of the time where they're getting together, they're working on real life situations and so forth, and learning from each other. The next class, maybe we're going to be doing some sort of discussion or application activities, things like that, but really trying to mix up each class so it isn't like how we've been teaching in the past where it's been like video lecture or something, you know, or whatever the case is.
Just wanted to mention that there are many courses that are in those formats for quite a while on our campus. Take a look at this human biology course. I do not teach this particular course. I do teach human biology, but right now it's face-to-face. Look at this one. This runs for, so that's a 7-week format?
Although I put 8,
so,
because we're talking 8
well,
weeks. It is really 7
If you read the dates, I think it'll come to 8 weeks.
but they weren't going to know, right?
7 weeks, we already have that, right? Even, I think, 5-week courses.
Yeah, we have 5-week
right?
courses and 7-week courses and 8-week courses.
It existed for a long time,
Yeah.
so 8-week is
14-week courses.
Right. It's not something completely, totally brand new. So I hope as an institution, as a group, if we're moving forward, these are examples that exist already. So see how this one is done. This one is hybrid course, and all the lectures are online. And the students come in on Fridays 1, 2, 3, 4 times in 16 weeks. And this could be done. So this is one ideal course. I do face-to-face, and we do the labs every week and a lecture every week. But this is 8 weeks or 7-week format, and it can be done. Now let's go to the next one, and there's somebody who knows this one really well, fundamentals of chemistry. But even chemistry course can be done in that format. This one, although, is a 16-week right now, it's not an 8-week. So it's an online lecture, but the requirement for lab are on designated days for 2 hours, 45 minutes, 4 times during the semester. So if this has to transition to 8 weeks, you can see that it's doable.
Now, when you say online lecture, is that like you're actually lecturing online, like Zoom?
So it's not synchronous.
Okay.
It is asynchronous. It's recorded.
Okay.
So those were, just wanted to give some examples that we already have those things on campus.
All right. So when we're looking at how we do assessments, again, using these frequent low stake assessments, like quizzes or reflections and so forth, where they're or where they might be getting 1 or 2 points for interacting and so forth, but the whole point of them is for them to understand where they are at in that course of their understanding. Incorporating project-based learning instead of doing long exams. In project-based learning, you are able to get more types of objectives into that and so forth. Again, we talked about breaking major assignments into milestones to prevent last-minute work, because we all have students who do that. I do think about that often in my 8-week courses, of taking maybe my larger assignments and then just what Greg was asking, and breaking them out. They might not be papers, they're mostly, I do projects. They're projects, but breaking them out week by week. You have to have this done, and then you have to have this done, and then you have to have this as your final product to turn in. Providing continuous feedback, again, I had said that. Keeping those students on track, they want that. In a few minutes, I'm going to get into some evaluation responses I got back from an 8-week course that I'm running right now. And one of the things that they had talked about was they love the feedback that I give them via computer, but they would like to have once a week on there of where they could come to an online class and I could be there to answer questions. Again, note to self, in my syllabus as well as in my announcements, I have online and face-to-face office hours. Please come to that, right? So in my announcement that I sent out to them once I was done with grading, I said that to them. Like, here are my office hours, virtual and in person. Please come. I can answer any questions, because I don't think students think of it that way, right? So that was one of those things. And then again, while students need to be fast in accomplishing tasks, instructors need a similar speed in grading those items and providing that feedback, okay? We're at a community college where we have students that want to know where they stand. Having your grade book set up and having those students see that the grade is done, here's what I got, here's what I need to work on, it's imperative in an 8-week course if we're going to keep those students retained and all the way to completion. Yep, is it the next slide?
I want to say a couple of things.
Yep.
So feedback, I personally think that that's really a major thing. Also, if we can personalize it, there is no substitute for that. When I'm providing some feedback, I start with their names. Hey, Joe, great job, but you can improve this way. When they see that somebody is actually paying attention and constantly looking after what they're doing, that helps in engagement. And I also serve in one of the committees for belongingness. So I'm always sort of thinking about that part as well. So continuous feedback, never stop. And then when it comes to this note that we have, that instructors, they need to be speedy in terms of grading things. So how do we accomplish it? Sometimes the assessments go quite deep. So let's say, for example, I'll show you a couple of things that I have done. So I teach biology. I used to teach chemistry, but I do teach biochemistry, which is heavy in terms of calculations. So Blackboard does have certain features. If you are not taking advantage of those, perhaps time to revisit some of these things. So for example, this is a biochemistry course, and it has gone completely online. So here's a question, which is not important. The important part is they need to know that they need to use an equation for this one. Okay? And it has 3 variables that they need to plug in. Okay? And there are 3 numbers. So pK of the buffer, and then the concentration of acid, concentration of the base, and the concentration of the acid. The way this question is set up is that I have to make this effort once, and I'm going to enjoy this forever, because I'm having the computer produce random numbers for each student, for all 3.
Mhm.
You want to look at somebody else? Fine, your answer is different. So that's another way of engaging, giving them more opportunity. If they do this again, they would reap the benefit. Do I need to see the calculation? Yes, maybe once. That's how they're setting it up, and I can provide them with feedback. I don't need to do that 20 times.
Right.
So this can get auto-graded. What we're trying to say is that leverage technology to your benefit. This could reduce your workload a great deal. This person submitted late and has the answer slightly off. So I give them a little leeway because of rounding issues, right? So somebody, you do 4 steps, you may not, mathematician in the, looking at Shelley, would appreciate that. You do 4 steps, your calculation may be slightly off. So I give them 2% leeway. This person is off that 2% limit. That's when I did not maximize this. But these 2 are fine. This is where I would write a message for them. Hey, wherever you are, first of all, please make sure next time you submit on time. But here's the mistake that you're making. That's not the answer. You're off. Tell me what you have done wrong. Then I'll ask them, perhaps take a picture, upload. Let me see how you're doing this calculation. So this is how we do. This is one thing. I'll share one more, and that's another one. So this is the lab-based course where the students would get familiar. This is the very first lab, and they would get familiar with something called the metric system. So here we have English system, right, or imperial system, pounds, ounces, and all that. But in sciences labs, we need to have the metric system, grams, kilograms, meters, whatnot. So it's just one question. They need to weigh a coin, which I want that to be a nickel, paperclip, and a golf ball. So nickel is 5 grams. I know that. Okay, let's say set weight. Paperclip could be off a little bit. Golf ball, it has a particular weight. But do I need to grade this for 24 students? Well, I'll leverage technology. So I have this code here. Any computer scientist in the room, don't laugh at this. This is my simple version. Am I an expert at this? I'm a biologist. ChatGPT did that. Okay.
Right.
And it serves my purpose. I don't care how silly it might look to someone, but what it accomplishes is, watch this. So instructions say that answer with numeric value only. Do not trim the numbers. Report all digits your lab balance displays. This person gave me 5 grams. Perfect, right? No, because display was 5.0 grams, and they removed that 0. And the computer dinged them for that. Did not get the point. I let them, you come up to me if it's face-to-face, or you tell me what is wrong, and tell me that you've fixed it, and I'll just fix the score. No big deal. So just letting you know that there are technologies out there. Blackboard is really powerful if we try to leverage all of this. Use it to our benefit. Reduce timing somewhat in grading.
So the biggest thing that we want to talk about is how do we make our students successful in an 8-week course when we're taking that from a 16 to an 8, because for a lot of our students, it's new to them too, right? They're used to going to a 16-week course. They came from high school to doing a semester course, which is 16 weeks. So this is new to them as well. So my things that we try to do is we create an instructor video. Don't worry, I created one for you. It's in a second. You go open your course a week early. All you have to do is open the course. You don't have to do anything. Just go in and open the course. In that announcement to your students, the course is open. Please review the start page that will have, here's what your book is, here's your syllabus, here's the syllabus quiz, here's your welcome video, all of these things. Have the students be able to get into that course, understand Blackboard before the course even starts. Establish clear, structured, and consistent weekly schedules. That is the biggest thing I can only say. Have everything broken out specifically by week. Have your syllabus match each of those weeks. You've got older people out there and some younger people, but mostly older people that love that syllabus. They love that syllabus, and they want to make sure that that syllabus is matching what is in that actual course online. Even if you're face-to-face, they're looking at that. They're looking at, we're in week 3, this is week 3, this is what's expected me of week 3. You as a instructor, continually reminding them about those check-ins or doing check-ins with your students. Explaining to them those office hours. Please come to the office hours. I sit there in the office all by myself. I would love for you to come and see me. I always say to them. Again, encouraging peer support. One of my things I do in my face-to-face class on day 2 is have them each meet a friend. I give them a little project and I say, pair up with somebody in the room. And oh, by the way, exchange your either phone number or your email. I prefer phone number so that when you get stuck by the train over there or the train over there, you can text your friend and they can tell me you're going to be late to class, right? But get a friend in class. If you miss class, this is your person that you can ask what you missed. You can get the notes. Creating that community in the classroom is very important, especially in 8 weeks. And then finally, early intervention. That is on us. That I know that we have, whatever that is. What's that called? What's that? Yes, retention alerts. I know we have retention alerts. I use them all the time. But I also sit there, again, on Mondays, and I look at my students. And if they miss that week's assignments, even if it's one, I immediately reach out to them. If it's a face-to-face class, I immediately say, hey, after class, come and talk to me. I want to know what is going on. I do not want them to fall behind. And I think as instructors, if we're not doing that, especially in an 8-week class, that's how we lose them.
Just quickly want to say one thing, that it doesn't hurt to have deadlines and reminders at multiple places. Because even though we think, you're an adult, figure this out, I've shown you once and you should know this, that doesn't work. So in the announcement, I would have the deadlines for the week. Anytime they will open a new module, you will have it multiple places. So my hope is they will see it at least once.
Multiple times. It's always my hope. All right, here's my little video. I don't know if it can just play, but here we go. This is just a quick video. I did this for, I specifically did it for a marketing class, but this video that I created could be for, if I took out the word marketing, I could use it literally in every single 8-week course that I'm teaching.
Hello and welcome. I know starting an 8-week course can be both exciting and a little overwhelming, but don't worry, you've got this. I'm so excited to have you in this 8-week marketing course. My name is Dr. Gretchen Reyes, and I'll be your instructor. Whether you're new to marketing or building on what you already know, I am here to help you succeed. The great news is that this course has been open a week early. Take this time to get acquainted with Blackboard, complete the syllabus quiz, and participate in the introduction discussion. This will help you feel prepared and ready to jump right in on the first day of class. So what should you expect in an 8-week course versus a 16-week course? You might be used to a traditional 16-week course, but this class is designed to be more fast-paced. We cover the same material, but in half the time. This means time management and prioritizing key concepts will be crucial to your success. Consider setting up a study schedule, breaking tasks into manageable steps, and reaching out for support when needed. This means that there will be more frequent assignments and discussions, so staying engaged each week is key. There'll be a steady workflow. You'll want to set aside dedicated time each week to stay on top of readings and assignments. But just know you will also receive quick feedback and support from me. I'll be here to answer any questions, provide guidance, and make sure you're on the right track. Even though an 8-week course can feel intense, don't worry, you're not alone. If you have questions or need help, please reach out, whether it's through email or through my office hours. I want to see you thrive in this course. So take a moment to introduce yourself in the welcome discussion post. Connecting with your classmates can enhance your learning experience. So share a little bit about yourself, your background, what interests you about marketing, maybe one goal you have for this course. Let's get to know each other and start this journey together. I'm very much looking forward to a great 8 weeks together. Thank you. See you in a week.
So that little video literally tells my students exactly what I'm expecting from them, gives them sort of some sense of, you're going to be supported. Here's what you should be expecting, and we're all in this together, right? And so I think that those videos are very important to implement into an 8-week course, if not your 16-week course.
So we're gonna run out of.
I know.
We have run out of
Hello.
time, so we'll
Okay.
go a little bit fast, maybe.
Okay, so best practices, detailed directions and due dates, which we just talked. Providing short, engaging video lectures instead of long recordings. Using those weekly discussion forums. You can do those in face-to-face classes too. Implementing self-paced learning activities. And offering, again, that frequent feedback and support in your office hours.
Just one thing I wanted to say about LMS is arranging the modules which are consistent. That I think helps the students a great deal, not only in one course. So, for example, I am part of biotechnology lab lab assistant program, and for example, in the courses that we have, cell and molecular biology, I teach biochemistry. Professor Beth Clifford, she teaches cell and molecular biology. But we have designed intentionally our Blackboard shells, which look very much alike. So students go from one course to the other to say, oh, we got this, we know where things are. So that's
Reducing
one
that
way.
learning curve.
Exactly.
So this is just an example of a face-to-face versus an 8-week class, face-to-face, in-class discussion, the group work, online discussion boards, video conferencing. Assessments, in-person exams or presentations, online quizzes, projects, or e-portfolios. Content delivery, lectures, hands-on activities, or video, whereas in an online videos, readings, and interactive modules. It just so happened that I just finished up my 4-week evaluation that I put together for my 8-week course. I wanted to know what these students felt. It was not a Triton evaluation. It was my personal evaluation of my courses that I wanted to know what they liked and that they didn't like in the course. These are just some comments. I'll just read a couple of them. This person said, I like that everything is due at the end of the week, that way I can manage the assignments and my workload more. I have another online class that does not do this, and it's more difficult with my time because of that. I like that every assignment has clear expectations and examples of what the finished product should look like. I just added that this year. I never added that before, and this year I did. Thank you, ChatGPT. Thank you, ChatGPT. Literally took my assignment into ChatGPT and said, give me an example of this not using the case study that I use. And then I pasted it in. It's phenomenal. Most of the assignments have been very clear as to what needs to get done with direct instructions and a rubric to check your work with. Assignments are open every Friday. I open them up on Friday and they go all the way through to not this Sunday, but the next Sunday. So they get 9 days, 2 weekends, because we have working students. How even though the course is online, it's easy to operate the class with all the help from the directions that are given, how we should be doing and submitting assignments. As students, we are not left in the dark on how the course should be going. The material straight to the point. So again, giving a lot of that feedback and information. I really enjoy doing the self-assessments weekly. It makes me understand myself a bit differently. I swear to God, I did not write these. These are from students. The consistent reoccurring subjects and lessons ensure that I comprehend and understand the material. I really appreciate how in-depth the lessons and the homework prompts are. It helps me grasp the message and utilization further. I enjoy the feedback the teacher gives, and he thinks I'm a guy, but that's okay, his style of grading. And then here's what they didn't like. This person wanted time to turn in late assignments. I don't do that. I don't do that in my face-to-face classes. I don't do it in my online classes. I give you 9 days to get the assignment done. Again, it's business. When you have a project that's due on this day, that's when it's due. You don't get a late assignment. So I don't give them in my courses. You, on the other hand, might, depending on what your subject is. I'd like to possibly add Zoom meetings to present, maybe just check in with our class and make sure everyone is caught up and doing good. Again, that was a conversation. I was able to go back to my students and say office hours. As I was thinking about it at 3 a.m. this morning, I thought to myself, I need to tell them they have a Blackboard shell they can go all meet in. They probably don't know that, So, hey, you guys want to meet each other? This shell is always open. Go talk to each other. There's a lot of lengthy assignments and a lot of assignments in general. I understand that there will be more work in a week because of an 8-week course. However, some of the assignments are very repetitive in the content. The Connect assignments feel unnecessary when we're already doing a smart book that covers the book content. Pretty much the same material. And then the assignments created by the professor to apply what we've learned in assessment to show how much we've learned. So that's how mine look. So I'm taking that as an instructor and I'm going to be like, okay, let me really look at those smart book and Connect assignments. Are they similar? I don't think they are, but maybe they are. Maybe I need to take another look at what I put out there. This class has been more intense than the other online courses I'm taking concurrently. I know the class is accelerated, but this class has much more work than the other ones. And then some of the bigger homework assignments were due very close together. It was doable, but it was just a little difficult to balance with a busy schedule. Again, thank you very much for that feedback, because I'm now going to go back before I teach this class again and see, I know exactly where we're at. Where are those larger assignments? How can I make my course more balanced for future students? So again, getting this feedback, and I almost I did it at the 4-week point, and I do it at the end. I almost want to go 3, 6, 9, and get more feedback and so forth, just because they're honest, and it's anonymous. It's set up as anonymous. I don't know who did it, and I explained to them, your feedback is going to only make this course better for other students. So please be honest. And I also said, you will not hurt my feelings. I'm like, you won't hurt my feelings. Strong skin. So our final thoughts and then questions and answers. Go ahead.
Yeah, so just a few things that, totally we put together. Strategic adjustment, being intentional about how we do things, how we deliver content. Focus on just the essential, and anything that is repetitive, just cut it out perhaps, or lessen the time that we spend on it. Interactive opportunities, more hands-on work. We do labs, so there's a lot of that, right? But that's not a possibility in all courses. But nonetheless, we can make all sorts of interactive learning, structured assessment. Face-to-face with blended learning techniques, meaning utilize everything, see what works, mix of things, always keep things interesting instead of being a sort of one particular thing that we just utilize. And engagement, when we say, especially in online courses, lots of multimedia, there's so many technologies that are out there. And as we mentioned that, leverage technology for your benefit. Creating activities, ChatGPT is beautiful. In biochemistry, it's really difficult to make assignments that are totally accurate medically. But you get some help, and then with the expertise that I have, I can tailor it. Let it generate 20 ideas, maybe 10 of them are garbage, but 10 of them would be really useful. So all those things, assignments and even assessments, as we showed for a couple of those examples of how to leverage the technology. But in the end, I just want to close with this, and if you have some thoughts, that what we started out with during COVID time, overnight we had to switch. That wasn't easy, but we got that, right? We did that. We were all online and doing our thing. Now, if we keep an open mind to this 8-week format as well as an institution, if we are moving forward, perhaps some good things will come out of that. I always saw the Zoom thing back in the days, but I never clicked on it. But it's a way of life now.
Right.
Yeah? The publishers, they have come out with so many technologies and good things because of all that transition. So perhaps reluctance will always be there.
Yeah.
Change is never easy, but you never know. Maybe this will be surprisingly better.
Yeah. So we touched.
Something good?
Yeah, and I just to finish up the technology, ChatGPT, right? We could all use to help with assignments or whatever the case. There's another thing. It's called EduAid, AIDE.com. That is also another, or it's Aid. EDU, but I think it's EduAid. That's another website that actually you can pick your subject. You can then tell it what you're trying to do, and it will give you different types of things. I want a worksheet. I want a discussion post. I want, things like that. Now we have ChatGPT built into the Blackboard that we can use to create different things. But there are other sites out there that are free you're like, okay, I want to do these 3 specific objectives. This is what I want to cover. I need an assignment. I need some help creating this, right? Yeah. I think we're done with this, right? Okay, hold on.
Sorry, we're going over the time.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's EDU.
But there's so much to share. We were just too excited, I guess, to get slides together.
Okay, so it's this. Make things smarter, not harder. So you can start for free as a teacher. And then, I don't even know. I don't know if I can start with continue with Google. No. So that's it. So let me go back to it.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome. It's awesome. And they actually, there are a few instructors at Triton that use this program. That's how I found out about it. And then I just got a text the other day that they had I haven't been in it since I got this text, but that they had just updated with even better stuff. So, and it's using AI, but it's really like helping you come up with different things because, we also have only so much time. So, okay.
Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you. Any questions?
Thank you.
Any thoughts?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, Denise.
Thank you for talking about opening up the course early. You don't know the wonders that really do for students who struggle and really want to start early so that they don't feel like they're rushed and they do feel more prepared. And thank you so much for also stressing the importance of feedback. These are things we constantly hear on the student affairs side of the house, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they are the most important. I'm an instructor. I do go in during that first week that I open it up before, whether it's summer, spring, whatever. And then because I also go in and then help students, right, to, if they have questions or things like that. And I think I think that's just part of being a good instructor, right, is that my job is actually to be there for the students. That's what I get paid for. Yeah.
So
Sorry.
related to that also, I actually give them a full calendar that I use for my own planning of every single due date, and every day I open the modules early so they have 2 weekends.
Yeah.
I give that to them.
Yes.
So that they can see what's coming up, they can manage. And then on top of that, in one of our courses, there's an About Me section that asks your general all about you, how you pronounce your name, what you want to be called, so on. But there's actually things in there that say, is there anything I need to know about your schedule or your situation that might interfere with your coursework going on? For example, right now, I have a graduate student, her dad's in hospice. That's important for me to know because if she's late, I can afford her a little bit extra grace because of that.
Sure.
So all of that student success.
Right. And I think that's important as well.
I just wanted to share what I do in terms of, so my gradebook is all set up and I like to open it at least 1 week in advance. And since my gradebook is all set up and the first couple of assignments are already loaded in, so I do a very small stake exercise and they get full point for that. So they immediately see that they have 100% score. And I just make a comment that your job is easy. Of course, I'm joking. Just keep it that way. Resist any change. So I'm big on letting them know what is their grade at any time they want to look at. So anything that is auto-graded, then it just adjusts their final grade immediately. So they know where they stand in the class
and
at
Nicole,
all times.
Yeah, and Nicole, you made a great point. So when my course is open, all my assignments are in with all their due dates. And I do reference in my first announcement that is not a video, it's written to them, the calendar. Go to the calendar. You can see it on a weekly or you can see it on a monthly basis. This is going to show you what the workload is for this class, what those assignments are, so that they also, because I'm like, you have it in the syllabus, you have it in the module, and you also have it in that calendar. Again, referencing the information to the student again and again and again and again, I think also is what helps with that success. Any other questions or comments? I hope you guys learned a lot. I know there will be more sessions on different aspects of 8-week courses, so please come to those in the future. Once a month, I think. Once a month, right?
We have
Let's
two
give
more.
a big round of applause to our presenters.